Hi everyone, I'm Meenal, a visual artist based out of New York City. Today is the 4th of December 2024, and I'm going to be sharing a few hopefully interesting tidbits about my life thus far, especially my life as an artist. And I hope you like it. I was born in India, New Delhi, and basically lived in India for most of my life before moving to New York about 15 years back now. And so I am an immigrant to the US. And actually, that shift was pivotal in my life because after that shift is where I considered my second career, my second rebirth almost, which was my career as an artist. Prior to that, I was a marketer in back home in India, and also I worked in Switzerland with a multinational company, and that's because I studied economics in college. I did my MBA in international business, so worked several years as a marketer, and then I had an opportunity to rethink where my life was going and where I was really taking it, and I chose to take up what was always my passion, which is the arts. The interesting thing is that my story may sound a bit familiar to some folks, especially women, because when you're a young mother, as I was when I moved to New York, you suddenly find that your priorities change. And at least, okay, I can only speak for myself. That's what I felt. I had a 2-year-old child with me. I was in a completely new country. I didn't really like the weather in New York at all. A lot of the things that I was used to back home were not here. So it was almost like I wanted to feel a little bit more rooted. And one of the things that did make me feel rooted and at home was my affinity to the arts. I would be remiss if I didn't mention here that I'm also a bit of a nerd. I love reading and I love knowing more things about more things, and especially when it concerns art. So I, signed up for courses in art history at Columbia, and basically art history of South Asian art and artifacts, which, as compared to, say, European art or medieval European art, those areas are not as well documented or well documented or well heard of. And so in a way, that was my first introduction to the world of art, and I really didn't look back since then. I was then standing at a fork in my life, honestly, where I could have continued with my corporate career, which was very demanding in terms of the hours that it required me to put in terms of, just the basic time that I could spend with my family. And given that my husband was in a similar kind of a situation as well, I just decided that, I wasn't very sure if that's what I wanted to do going forth. And that's when I said, okay, let me just give my passion, something that I've always wanted to do, which is art, create a full shot. I'd always been creating and painting for my friends and family. They would often request things of me, and I would, give them those and so on and so forth. So I said, hey, why not sort of, give myself my passion a shot, really, and see where that takes me. And that really was the starting of my career. I have to be honest, the fact that I'm not trained professionally is something that always is there in the back of my head. An imposter syndrome is something that's very common with most artists, but it was even more so with me when I started, because I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing, why am I doing this? And so I started very low key, and I have to say I'm the poster child for social media, because what I really started doing was I started creating art and sharing it on Instagram. And that's really how I started, was it was from my personal account, very, very casual, just to see what kind of response I got. And that really was the beginning of my professional art journey. I grew up in Bombay, and I've had a very, very strong affinity for the ocean. Bombay is by the Arabian Sea, and oftentimes when I was not feeling that great, or when I was actually feeling very great, when the monsoons were on, or when it was hot, whatever, I would often find myself sitting on one of the rocks by the shore and just taking the sea in. And when I started creating, I started actually by creating those seascapes that I truly, truly missed in this new city that I found myself in. I used a medium called epoxy resin, which is basically a pouring medium. So I wasn't painting as such, but I was pouring and then manipulating, my pores via heat, or by shifting it on the canvas, on wooden boards, and bringing these seascapes to life. And there was a lot of mixed media involved in this as well. There was sand, there was stones. So it was very unique in the way of how it presented itself. And that sort of translated on my socials. The account really blew up very quickly, and I had started from my personal account. I quickly made it my professional account, which it remains to date, Meenal's Corner. And yeah, really, that's how it took off. And I started after doing my seascapes, I started making abstract artworks that were inspired by crystals and geodes. So there was that whole line. I also did limited editions of coasters inspired by nature and by abstract art, and those were always sold out. So it was interesting, and actually I would say fascinating to see how social media really managed to take my artworks to pretty much every continent. I have to say, barring Antarctica, my art can be found in every continent of the world. So this is what I was doing for the first 3 years. I started in 2019 professionally, and I would say up to 2022. That's what I was doing. It took me through COVID, but I was so grateful for the fact that I had my art. I was loving the response I was getting. The validation was very real. It was very wanted. And the fact that my collectors and patrons were paying for the art that I was creating was very important to me, especially, in the beginning of my career, because I suppose I was always, like I said, looking for some sort of validation and trying to just feel that I'm not an imposter in this world. So I think it was very, very important. Having done this for 3 years, I found myself at a juncture where I wanted to express other things, and I was more confident in my abilities as an artist, and in my abilities to deliver, great art. And so in 2023, my art certainly saw a change. It was almost like I wanted to go inward and express a lot more of where I was coming from and where I was going. I was also starting to feel a lot more comfortable in my skin in the US. New York's a city that you have to fall in love with. It just does that to you. So I was not in a similar place as I was years before when I started doing this. So I wanted to express that through my art. So my art still remains intuitive, with color and texture as its core syntax, and nature's raw beauty, this experiential trip called life that we are on, continue to inform my work. I am deeply influenced by South Asian art forms, especially folk art, and also abstract expressionism. I seek to evoke emotion by operating in saturated chromatic fields, juxtaposed against structured surfaces. I love texture, so I play with texture all the time. And contemporary compositions, because that's how I sort of visualize most of my art. I work mostly with acrylics, concrete, sand, epoxy, and and I feel now more so than ever, my art plays out in a very, very personal space, my Eastern roots and Western sensibilities. My biggest influences are some of the Indian artists whose artwork I grew up with. There's M.F. Hussain, there's Raza, there's Souza. I absolutely love their work. Of the newer ones, there is Shubodh Gupta, who makes these brilliant artworks with metal, and I adore his work. But other than that, I am very, very partial to the traditional folk arts and crafts of India, whether it's, some of the works done by the indigenous communities or, just rural people, paintings like Madhubani paintings, which are done in villages of the state of Bihar, very deeply influenced by those. And then there is Monet, and I cannot get over how much I love Monet. It may not be the poshest answer to give, but I have to say that I am absolutely enamored by his work. I love Georgia O'Keeffe's work. It's just brilliant. I love, love, love Yayoi Kusama. If there's ever an exhibition of hers, you will find me there 100%, right there at the top of the line, wanting to get into that exhibit. Right now, I'm focusing on expressing my spiritual journey and unpacking my heritage through my work because I feel that's very important to me. As you grow older, life brings you so many surprises, some good, some not so good. And I have found a lot of refuge in spirituality, and that's what I try to express quite a bit, I feel, through my art. One of the biggest challenges of being an artist, especially for me, is to just get over the self-doubt. I feel validated a lot more now than I had before, but there's always this niggling doubt, are you good enough? Are you great? How are you going to break into this? How are you going to do that? Because you always feel, there's someone that's better than you. And I know, the sane part of my brain tells me that's not the best way to approach anything in life, but I'm also human. So I feel like that can be a little bit of an issue with artists, especially sensitive folks. Like I'm crazy sensitive. So it can be a little bit of a challenge, but I think I'm meeting it headway and trying to, deal with it the best I can. The second most challenging thing for me personally was, given the fact that I was drawing a significantly fat salary when I was in my corporate job. For me personally, it was an issue how I would supplement, my household income from just being an artist. So it's not the easiest career choice to make money from, especially not if you're starting, especially not if you're an emerging artist as I am. But I've begun to understand that, it's a journey, as all journeys are. And hopefully if you stay steadfast on your path, the path leads you to where you want to go. So that again is a belief that I hold close to my heart. I think there would only be just one advice I would give to my younger self, and that would be to believe in myself a lot more, lot more than I did in the past. I think it was probably an issue with me. It may not be an issue with many people, but I certainly always have second guessed myself. I was one of the top most students in my class, but I was always like, am I good enough? I was a really good artist, but I was always like, am I good enough? And it's just something that's inborn. I don't know what brings it there. But for me, I think the one advice I would give my younger self was to believe in myself, because I do believe in myself now. And, that's what life has taught me. It's really a thing that's very, very important to have. And the second thing I would tell my younger self is to follow your passion. When I was growing up in India, you either had to be a doctor or an engineer or an MBA to be considered successful. And I came from a very middle class family, so art just never happened to be on the horizon, not for me anyway. I think I would tell my younger self to put all these fears in the background and just go to an art school, learn all that there is to learn, and get on with your life. When I work, I love listening to music because, I am basically an artistic personality. I love creating. I love music, I love writing, I love reading. So all these things are things that I love. And so when I am creating, there's always either music playing or a podcast on history, because I love listening to podcasts on history, or it could be, spirituality. So I love listening to podcasts, and that's more recent. But music has always been a constant throughout my life. So I love listening to music when I'm working. I've been incredibly lucky in the sense that every artwork of mine that has found a permanent home has been loved by the collector. And there's one particular collector of mine who lives in Canada, and I've created 3 commissions for her, over time. And I love, or have always loved, the feedback that I've got from her, because she genuinely does care for my artwork. That is one, but also just the fact that she gets where the art is coming from. However, what remains very, very, very special to me was this one client of mine, who was going through a tough time in her life, and she wanted something specific. It was a commission, and she told me what she was sort of looking at, and I gave in my thoughts, and eventually what came out of it was something that she really considered, or as she told me, she thought it was her North Star. It was the thing that she looked at every morning and then before going to bed. And that really, I mean, the feeling that you get when somebody says that is something that cannot be described. My art comes really from my soul. It is almost a spiritual part of my being. It is very personal to me, and I put everything that I have in every work that I do. I don't really make prints for the same reason, because I want what I make to be felt, to be seen the way it was made and created. So the one thing I would hope that people get from seeing my artwork is hope. Because at the end of it all, I think if I were to, sort of just churn everything that I've been through, or I am going through, and what I'm trying to express, at the end of it all, what I'm trying to express is hope, positivity, and just, growth in life as a person, as a human being, as a mother, as a father, as a brother, as a sister, as whatever. Just the fact that you grow, you learn, and you grow. That's really what I want people to take from my artwork. Thank you guys so much for listening to me talk about myself. I hope I was not too self-indulgent, but I really, really enjoyed doing this, because it's also nice and therapeutic to go through this by myself once in a while as well. And here's me sending you a lot of positive vibes, love, happiness, all those good things. Have a good day and take care. Bye.